What is up, everybody? It is me, Video Person 102, and today we are going to be reading Maybe by MoonGazer215. This is a very fun book, so please subscribe if you want to hear me read the last book, because this is book 2. Click the iCard above the video to the right. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Month 1, Logan's POV. Trigger warning, mention of self-harm and implied eating disorder. I sat in the comments, trying to wrap my mind around what happened. Pedden was gone. Depression was slowly taking over the mindscape. Deceit is still here, but he won't talk. I tried to get him to eat. He refused. Said he wasn't hungry. It's much too quiet. There was no smell of fresh cookies. Everything seemed dull. Logan? I looked up. Missy standing in the doorway. Can I talk to you? Of course, Missy, I said. He made his way over and sat next to me. He fidgeted with the sleeves of his flannel. What do you want to talk about? I asked the boy. What's going to happen now? It was quiet for a moment. I don't know. Missy looked down. He put a loose string on his flannel. Too quiet. I think Pranks is cutting again, he said after what seemed like an eternity. Why is that? Missy sighed. He looked himself in the bathroom. I heard him crying. He came out wearing his hoodie again. He crossed his arms, hunching over. I tried talking to him, but he didn't want to talk. Do you want me to try? I asked him. He looked up at me and nodded. Please? I whispered an okay and stood up, heading for the kids' room. The door was open. I could see Pranks lying on the bed, facing the wall. I knocked on the door frame. Go away. Pranks? He stayed quiet. Everything is too quiet. I walked over and sat on the edge of the bed. I placed a hand on his shoulder. Pranks? I said. Did you hurt yourself? He shrugged. I sighed. I rubbed his shoulder. Missy's worried about you, I told him. I am too. Quiet. Please talk to us, Pranks. Quiet. I sighed, starting to stand, but he grabbed my hand. Please stay. I smiled lightly. Pranks rolled over, reaching for a hug like a small child. I hugged him back. He curled into me, crying. I just held him, letting the tears soak into my shirt. I'm sorry, Logan, Pranks sniffed. Shh. Pranks, you don't have to be sorry, I said. The next time you feel like hurting yourself, tell me, or Missy, or Virgil and Roman. He nodded. Okay. May I look at your wrists? He nodded again, rolling up his sleeves, angry red marks covering his forearms. Some scabbed over, but most were new. I gently ran my fingers over the cuts. Oh, Pranks. I hugged him. I should talk to Missy, Pranks said. We stood up, walking out to the commons. Missy sat on the couch, looking down at the ground. Pranks went up and sat next to him, pulling him to his chest with one arm. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but they ended up crying themselves to sleep. Missy on the top Pranks. I threw a blanket over them and left to check on Roman and Virgil. I knocked on the door to the creative traits room. Logan insisted then he stayed on Virgil's side, but he couldn't stay in Virgil's room for long due to the room of his nature. Solution: force Virgil to stay in Roman's room. The door opened, and to a tired, deceived Roman. How's Virgil? I asked. Roman sighed. He's asleep. May I come in? He nodded and stepped out of the way. Virgil was lying on the bed, red sheets pulled over his stomach, his chest rising and falling softly. He was wearing Roman's Jack Skellington t-shirt. His hoodie was carefully folded on the end of the bed. Roman sat down in the chair and pulled up to the bed. He grabbed the injured soulmate's hand, bringing it up to his mouth and kissing it. I summoned my own chair and sat down. Virgil mumbled tiredly. I'm here, Virgie, Roman said, holding his hand tighter. I want to watch a movie, Virgil said, smirking. Roman smiled and shook his head, placing a kiss on the others. What movie? Virgil glanced at me before responding. Big Hero 6. Roman nodded, then turned to me. Would you like to watch with us? No, I couldn't. I wouldn't want to intrude. Logan, I can tell you need a break, Virgil insisted. Watch with us. I smiled. Okay. So Roman picked the movie off the shelf and played it. He laid down next to Virgil, wrapping an arm around his shoulders. It remained in my chair, though I didn't enjoy the movie as much as I usually do. Honey Lemon was so much like Patton. I vaguely rubbed the spot where my tattoo used to be. I wondered about Patton. It's much worse than last time. The depression has gotten stronger. But so was Patton. I don't know what to do. Everything's different this time. I need Patton back. I need to talk to him. I need to make sure he's okay. I want to kiss him again. I want to hold him again. I want to be near him again. Logan? Roman snapped his fingers in front of my face. Yes? You good? He asked. The movie ended like 5 minutes ago. I glanced at the TV, which was rolling the credits. So it did. I apologize for overstaying my visit. I should go check on Deceit now. I stood and walked out, closing the door behind me. A quiet sob escaped my throat. I miss him. I quietly composed myself, heading to the kitchen. I saw Missy and Prank still asleep on the couch. I remember when Patton and I slept like that, but that was a long time ago. Maybe one day we could do it again. Maybe. Flashback, Logan's POV. Trigger warning, self-harm, blood, and suicidal thoughts. 19 years ago. I hadn't seen Mortality all week. I was getting worried about him. The last I saw him, he was going to his room. So that's where I went. I knocked on the baby blue door covered in stickers. Mortality, are you in there? I listened closely, and I thought I heard him crying. Mortality, are you okay? He didn't respond. Okay, I'm coming in. I opened the door. His room was a mess, to say the least. It looked like he held on to everything. Maybe I could help him organize his room sometime. No, I was getting distracted. I have to find Mortality. I had to look around for a second before I spotted him curled up on the opposite side of his bed. I carefully made my way over to him. I knelt in front of him. He looked completely devoid of color. In fact, everything looked colorless. Mortality? I asked, reaching toward him. Then I saw what he was holding. Mortality, what are you doing? What's going on? He didn't say anything. He just curled up tighter. Then I saw the blood on his knees of his pants. Mortality, you're bleeding. Go away, Logic! I was shocked by his tone. Mortality, I'm fine, Logic. Mortality, just leave me alone! He threw his arms away from his face. His eyes were red and puffy from crying, and dried tear stains were being renewed with a new wave of tears. His glasses were askew, and his hair was a mess. But his arms were the worst. Dried and fresh blood coated his skin like frosting on a cake. You couldn't even see the wounds. I stared in horror. How could this have happened? How could he do this to himself? Mortality? I whimpered. Tears started falling. Logic? He cried softly. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to yell. I didn't want you to see me like this. Mortality, we have to get you cleaned up. I stood up, pulling him with me. Why? He asked, letting me drag him to the bathroom. Because you could be infected and die, I told him. He stopped outside the bathroom door. Why do you care? I blinked at him. Because you're my friend. His eyes widened in surprise. Now let's get you cleaned up. I pulled the rest of the way into the bathroom. I turned on the water in the sink, grabbed a rag while I waited for the water to warm up. I guided his arm under the stream and he winced. The water turned a bright red as it whirled down the drain. I gently started wiping away clots of dried blood, and soon the cuts were visible. There were lots, horizontal, vertical, and deep. Why did he do this? When all the blood was cleaned, I wrapped his arms in gauze. Why? I asked. It hurt. He started crying again. I know it hurt, Mortality, I said, but if it hurt, why did you do it? I did it because it hurt, he sobbed. I just feel so empty and lost. I thought. He broke off, hugging me and crying into my chest. Hey, Mortality, you're okay. But I'm not okay, Logic, he yelled. I'm not okay. There was a moment of silence. I sighed. Come on. I pulled him out of the bathroom into the commons, sitting him down on the couch. I went to the kitchen and grabbed a sandwich and a glass of water. I was going to go back to Mortality when I spotted a plate of cookies on the counter. I grabbed one and put it on his plate. I went back to Mortality, who was fiddling with the sleeves of his cardigan. Mortality, I made you some food. I handed him the plate and sat down. Okay, thank you, Logic. He was taking a bite of the cookie. Are you going to eat anything? I shook my head. It's going to, and no, I already ate. Are you sure, Logic? Yes, I'm quite sure. Oh, okay. He went back to eating his sandwich. We sat in silence for a while. Mortality finished eating. He set the dishes on the coffee table. How did this start? I asked after a bit. Well, it was in the imagination. I saw something on the ground, he explained. I picked it up, and it was this thing that looked like the dwarf in the flask from Full Metal Alchemist. It told me it was lonely and wanted a friend, so I took it back here. It was really sad, and after a while it told me it wanted to get out of the flask and play, so I let it out. It made my room go all dark and colorless, and it made me feel like I wasn't myself. And when I told it said to hurt myself and it would go away, but it didn't go away, and I hurt myself more, and and I and I. He looked up with me, tears spilling over his eyes. Logic, I wanted to die. Surely you don't mean that, I said, shocked. But I do, Logic. I did until you found me and got me out of there. Mortality. Patton, he corrected. My name's Patton. I smiled. Patton, you don't need to fight this alone anymore. Really? Really. Patton threw his arms around me. Thank you, Logic. Logan, I said. My name is Logan. Thank you, Logan. Eventually we fell asleep like that, Patton hugging me, laying on the couch. Maybe that's when I fell for him. Maybe. Month 2. Logan's POV. Trigger warning, eating disorder. It's been a month since the incident with depression. Virgil's recovering as well. Deceit is still not eating. Pranks has become more open. Patton isn't here. The last piece of our puzzle was missing, captured by depression, and who knows where. I miss him. We've been trying to form a plan to get him back or find him at all, but so far nothing. I sighed and sat down at the table. A plate of plain scrambled eggs in front of me. As it turns out, Patton was the only one who knew how to cook. Deceit walked into the kitchen, grabbing a glass and filling it with water. Would you like some eggs? I asked him. Thanks, he said. I'm hungry. I sighed. When was the last time you ate? I had asked him this every week, at least. His answer was always the same. I know. I snapped. Why won't you eat anything? Deceit glared at me. Why don't you care? Because Patton cared and told me to help you. So you don't have to. Yes, no, I sighed. I'm trying to give you a chance. Lolo, Desi? We looked over at the entryway. MG was standing there. He had a yellow gold blanket wrapped over his shoulders. Good day, MG. How long haven't you been sitting there? Deceit said. Desi, are you really not eating? Deceit looked at the ground, not answering. Deceit? MG. Okay, the thing just passed out. I got this. Deceit? MG said firmly. Are you eating? Yes. Oh, Desi, why? The youngest cried. He ran up to him and hugged Deceit. I can feel your ribs. Deceit hugged back, but didn't say anything. Then it clicked. You have anorexia nervosa, I said. He looked up at me sadly. No. I shook my head and went over to one of the cupboards and pulled out a jar. No, not Crofters. Cookies. Peanut butter chocolate chip oatmeal cookies. I put 3 on a plate and poured some grape juice into a glass. I set the food in front of Deceit. 1,097 calories. Sit. Eat, I told him. He sat down and picked up one of the cookies, but he didn't eat it. MG pulled up a chair next to Deceit. The younger took a cookie from the jar and started nibbling on it. I did too. The deceptive trait watched Deceit, but didn't take a bite of his own. MG finished his cookie. Desi, he said, please eat. Desi looked down for a moment, then took the smallest bite of a cookie, then a slightly bigger bite. Then the first cookie was gone. I smirked. He nearly attacked the second cookie, devouring it quickly. The third cookie stood less of a chance. The grape juice was finished within 5 seconds. He stared at an empty plate and a glass in shock, almost fear. I didn't just eat all that, Deceit said in disbelief. Yep, Deceit said, hugging the lying tray. How much do you weigh? I asked. I don't weigh 95 pounds. Deceit was still staring at the plate when he responded. MG blinked in surprise. Tessie. I sighed and sat down. Deceit, you know that's very underweight. No, he said. Then why? I don't want to be thin. Not the thinnest. Not so small I can disappear like I'm not supposed to. Tears started falling down his face, taking a crooked path through the scales. I don't want something that I could control. What do you mean, something you can't control? I was confused. Dusty can't tell the truth, MG said. Even if he wants to, he can only lie. It was quiet. Dusty dried his tears. We sat in silence for a while, the jar of cookies in between us. Can I not have another cookie? Dusty asked shyly. Of course, I said, pushing the jar over to him. Have as many as you'd like. Where didn't you get these? Dusty asked, grabbing another cookie. I made them, I replied. You can bake? MG asked. I blushed a little. I was looking through Patton's cookbook. The Mind Palace didn't seem the same without cookies. Well, I'm sure when Patton is back, he'll bake all the cookies in the world, MG giggled. I smiled. I'm sure he will. Uh-huh. Well, he'll make chocolate chip and sugar cookies and no-bake cookies and M&M cookies, he continued. Maybe he'll make cupcakes, too. I nodded. I remember the last time Patton made cookies. He made I remember the last time Patton made cupcakes. He made specific decorations for everyone. Disney for Roman, Nightmare for Christmas for Virgil, Snakes for Deceit, and the Steven Universe one for MG. Prinks and Misty looked like confetti poppers. Mine was decorated like space. In the end, there wasn't enough for Patton to have one, but he didn't care. As long as his kiddos got some, he was happy. I need to get him back. I missed him. I missed his cookies. I missed his hugs. I missed his bright smiles. It's only been a month, but it feels like an eternity. Maybe one day this eternity will end. Maybe. Flashback. Patton's POV. Trigger warning, eating disorder, attempted to purge 14 years ago. I skipped down the hall, heading to the kitchen to bake some cookies. I was going to make triple chocolate chip cookies, my favorite, and everyone else likes them too. As I passed the bathroom, I heard gagging and crying. Whoever was in there was muttering to themselves. Then I heard gagging again. It broke my heart. I knocked on the door. Hey kiddo, are you okay? I'm fine, Mortality. A voice I recognized as Creativity said. Are you sure? I said I'm fine, he interrupted. Okay. I stayed a moment longer, waiting for a reason to go in. I got it as soon as something sounded like a body hit the floor. Creativity? I called out, no response. Creativity, are you in there? Are you okay? Still nothing. I tried to get in, but the door was locked. I pounded on the door, yelling his name. Patton, what's wrong? I turned and saw Logan standing there. I heard Creativity crying, and he was sounding like he said he was fine, but I said he fell on the floor and got hurt, but I couldn't get in because the door was locked and I didn't know what to do. I started crying, fat tears rolling down my face. Logan came up to me and hugged me. It's okay, Patton. I got a key that unlocks a door to any side that is... I'm sorry. I have a key that unlocks any door a side is behind, as long as they're in trouble. So if it doesn't unlock, then Creativity is okay? I asked. He nodded and pulled a small silver office-looking key out of his pocket. He slid into the lock and turned. The lock opened. Creativity was lying unconscious on the ground, wearing only a pair of loose red shorts. Blood was smeared on his lips. Creativity! I ran over to him and pulled his head into my lap. God, he was so skinny. Logan knelt beside me and checked Creativity's pulse and breathing. Then he got up and grabbed 2 rags, rinsing both of them with cold water. He placed the first one on Creativity's forehead and used the other to start cleaning the blood. When he finished, he sat next to me. Logan? I started quietly, playing with Creativity's hair. Is he gonna be okay? It's going to, Pedin, he said. But I think he will be okay. I nodded and hugged Creativity. He's so cold. Why don't you get him a blanket while I take him to the commons? Logan said, placing a hand on my shoulder. I nodded again. He picked up Creativity and stood up, me following shortly after. While Logan carried Creativity away, I turned to get Creativity's favorite blanket, a soft, fuzzy red blanket with gold swirls on it. When I got back to the commons, I saw that Logan had summoned a heater next to Creativity. I took the blanket around him, brushing his hair back. Mortality? Creativity's eyes fluttered open. I'm here, kiddo, I told him. He reached up and touched his throat. It hurts. You ruptured some of the blood vessels in your esophagus, Creativity, Logan said, walking into the commons. And you passed out from malnutrition. Creativity, are you starving yourself? Creativity shrugged. Sometimes. Creativity, why? I yelled. He flinched. I'm sorry, Creativity said. No, I shouldn't have yelled. I hugged him. He was still cold. Creativity, were you forcing yourself to throw up? Logan asked, moving to sit on the arm of the couch. Creativity nodded. Didn't work, though. Kiddo. Patton, Logan said. Could you make Creativity some soup? Patton? Creativity asked. My name, kiddo, I told him. He nodded and softly smiled. I like it. Oh, thanks, kiddo, I smiled. I'm going to make your soup now. I stood up and walked over to the stove, grabbing a can of chicken noodle soup on a pot. A few minutes later, I poured the soup into a bowl and carried it out to the commons. Here you go, Creativity. Nope. Gonna pause this for a second. I'm sorry. Okay, here we try again. Here you go, Creativity, I said, handing him the soup. Roman, he said. What's Roman? I asked. My name it's Roman, he said, smiling. My eyes widened. Oh, I laughed. Roman's a great name. If we're giving out names, mine is Logan, the smart trait said. Logan and Patton, Roman smiled. And Roman, I added at the end. Now eat it, I don't want you to hurt again. Roman nodded and slowly sipped some of the soup, wincing a little. For a second I thought it was too hot, but then I remembered the situation. I rubbed my scars lightly. Maybe we'll be okay in the end. Maybe. Okay, month 3, Logan's POV. Trigger warnings, panic attack, cursing, and self-harm. I woke to a loud scream in the middle of the night. A flash of panic shot through me for a second. I thought I was back in the cave with depression and deceit injured and petted and captured. I shook myself from those thoughts, reminding myself that I was in my room, in the Mind Palace, and that someone screamed and I should go check on them. I turned on my lamp and slid out of bed, heading toward Roman's room. I opened the door quietly. Roman was holding Virgil, whispering things to him. Virgil was shaking. He appeared to be having a panic attack. Roman placed a quick kiss on Virgil's hair and continued to rub his back. I crossed the room and sat down next to him on the bed. Roman looked up at me. Sadness and pain invaded his eyes. I sighed and carefully reached out to rub Virgil's shoulder. He tensed a bit, but relaxed soon after. We sat in relative silence until Virgil calmed down. Are you okay, Virgil? I asked, quietly. He nodded into Roman's chest. Nightmare, he grumbled. Sorry to wake you. Oh, it's quite all right, I told him. I know, I just feel bad, he said. Feelings, I said, in an attempt to lighten the mood. Those were never my speciality. Patton would be much more suited for this. But Patton's not here, Virgil said firmly. I blinked in surprise at his tone. No, not currently, but he'll be back soon. How soon is soon, Logan? Virgil snapped. It's been 3 months. It's not like Patton's just gonna walk right in. We don't know where he is. He could be dead for all we know. Virgil! Roman said, shocked. I stayed silent. He was right. We're no closer to finding Patton than the day we lost him. I am sorry, Virgil, I said. I just want Dad back, he whispered into Roman's chest. I just want him back. We all do, I sighed. Then fucking act like it! Silence. Then something clicked. I crossed the room, not saying a word, and left. I marched down the hall to Deceit's room and pounded on his door. The yellow and black swirls decorating the wood gave almost a hypnotizing effect and seemed to shift when he opened the door. What are you doing asleep at this hour? Deceit asked, clearly annoyed. You know where depression is, I said. What? You know where he's keeping Patton, don't you? I yelled. You've been hiding something. What is it? You have some sort of connection with it, so tell me. Logan, Roman said, calm down. Calm down? Patton's missing depression is taking over the mindscape. We're stuck on this plan, and he knows something. I doubt a figure down into Deceit's chest. Logan, stop, Virgil said quietly. Yeah, Patton's not here, and we don't have a plan. We don't have to take it out on the snake. Exactly, he doesn't know anything, right? Roman said. Deceit looked down and didn't say anything. Right? Roman tried again. Right, Deceit whispered. Silence. You do know something, I hissed. You know, and you kept it from us? I lunged at him, but Roman held me back. Logan, enough, he shouted. I am honestly so tired of being the taskmaster here. I wasn't going to tell you, Deceit said, his small voice, but I thought that when Patton is away, things wouldn't go back to the way it wasn't before. I scoffed. You have no idea what Patton going through. I turned sharply and went into my room, slamming the door and locking it. I started pacing, anger bubbling inside me. He knew for 3 months and didn't say a word. My fist flew through the wall. I could feel bruises already starting to form before I pulled it out. There were a few cuts, but nothing serious. I sat and slid down the wall. All my anger evaporated, only to be replaced by a deep ache. I wanted to be emotionless again. I want Patton back. I want everything to be okay again. Maybe it will. Maybe. And then this is just a little thing at the end of the chapter, Patton's POV. I winced in their cut. How long have I been in here? I can't move. I miss Logan. I miss Roman and Virgil and the kids, and I want to go home. A tear falls. Ripples shake the slowly rising water. My lake of tears. Soon I'll drown. Maybe they'll find me. Maybe I'll go home. Maybe. Flashback. Sorry, I don't know if it cut me off. Flashback, Virgil's POV. Trigger warning, panic attack. 19 years ago. Stop yelling, stop yelling, stop yelling. Go away, anxiety, you're not helping, Creativity shouted. Thomas doesn't need to worry over this audition. I glared at him. The thing is, I don't want to be here either. I couldn't leave until Thomas calmed down. But I couldn't tell him that. No, I can't speak. Not to them. No. Anxiety, you don't need to be here. You are causing unnecessary stress right now, Logic said, placing a hand on my shoulder. I quickly shrugged his hand off and shook my head. Kiddo, why don't you... Patton, who was actually properly wearing his cardigan, was interrupted by Princey. Guys, it's time! He squealed. I flinched and tried to desperately sink out. After a few moments, I was back in my room. I couldn't breathe. It was all too much. Thomas's nerves have calmed down, but it'll be worse waiting for the results. Hey, yep, here it is. Did I do well? Well, like the part, what if they didn't like me? What if I failed? What if I messed up? What if my singing was awful? Oh god, am I going to get the part? These thoughts were echoed through my room. I never knew if the others heard them too, but at this point it was a full-blown panic attack. They were ringing in my ears and voices in my head. Tears fell heavily into my bed. I was filled up with a feeling of dread. There was nothing more to be said. Anxiety, kiddo? A voice said right outside my door. Mortality. He always came to check on me after Thomas did something that made him anxious. I covered my mouth and squeezed my eyes closed. He usually just leaves. I don't want him to find me like this. My door opened. Hey, kiddo, I don't mean to bother you, but... Anxiety, are you okay? I didn't respond. I couldn't respond. I just lay on my bed, shaking, crying. Anxiety. He placed a hand on my shoulder. I yelped and flinched violently, falling off my bed and hitting the floor hard. Mortality yelled quietly. He rushed over and knelt next to me, but thankfully he didn't touch me again. Inks, are you okay? What's happening? Are you hurt? I shrunk back into my hoodie. Too many questions. Too loud. Too much. This is bad. Hey, kiddo. Can you breathe nice and slow for me? He said, lowering his voice. In for 4, out for 4. I tried to follow him, but I couldn't breathe. I felt myself starting to black out. Inks, hey, kiddo, it's okay. Mortality suddenly pulled me into his chest and wrapped his arms around me. I heard him muttering, I don't know what to do. I buried my face into his chest. He smelled like cookies and sweets. My breathing started to even out. Anxiety? Mortality said after a moment. Are you okay, kiddo? I nodded. Do you want me to leave? He asked. I shook my head. He sighed in relief. Okay, kiddo. We sat there for a while, not saying anything. Mortality grabbed a blanket off my bed and wrapped it around the two of us. My eyes fell closed, almost falling asleep. Hey, kiddo, Mortality said. I opened my eyes and looked up at him. Do you get those often? I paused, then nodded. Oh, Inks, all those times I never. Mortality cried. Inks, I'm so sorry. I shook my head. No, he doesn't need to apologize. It's not his fault. Oh, kiddo. I tucked my face into his chest again. It's not your fault. You spoke, Mortality said, a smile creeping onto his face. I'm so proud of you. I smiled a little too. Thanks, Mortality. He giggled. Call me Patton, kiddo. Patton, I said. I like that name. Thanks, kiddo, he smiled. But what happened? You were shaking and crying. It was a panic attack, I stammered. Oh, kiddo, why? Thomas got nervous. Creativity was yelling and everything was loud, too loud. I said, hey, it's okay, Inks. He started running his fingers through my hair. Everything's okay now. I nodded. Don't tell the others. I don't want them to know. Okay, kiddo, Patton said. But will you tell them eventually? Maybe. So that's where we're leaving off for this episode. Please click the subscribe button and the notification bell if you want to hear the next couple chapters. Please go follow MoonGazer215 on Wattpad, link in the description. Visit my merch store. Like this video and comment down below having suggestions for reviews or theories or Wattpad read-alouds. I just don't do standard sides. You guys can literally suggest anything and I'll see what I can do. Thank you all for watching, and like always, do your best.